All right. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm hanging out with Jenny and Robert Barber, uh, really new friends. We just had a chance to sit down with Jenny specifically a few weeks ago. They're locals here to Shasta County. They're doing some really good stuff in the anti-trafficking space. And yeah, excited to just spend some time with them talking about economics and justice. So what's up, you two? How was your day?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah, so we've been doing anti-trafficking work and building our coffee company for the past 7 years. I think we just recently moved back to Reading, and that was such a huge, crazy journey to get back here. But we're excited to be back here, excited to see what's happening in the city and be a part of it.
It's awesome. Yeah, why don't we start there? Just a bit of your guys' journey, things that you guys have been doing. You mentioned, hey, we've done stuff in the anti-trafficking space for years now. Maybe talk a little bit about how your eyes open to the issue, ways that you guys have been engaged in that space, bringing strength or being a part of solution.
Awesome. So I come from a family with a history of generational trafficking, and that cycle was really broken with me. I was adopted at a very young age, but from the time I was a young child, it was an issue that was heavy on my heart. We got married in 2007 and jumped right into missionary work. At that point, Robert had no idea what trafficking was or what it meant, and he just knew that it was something I cared about a lot. We did our first missions trip together to Thailand, and that was where God really kind of got his heart for the issue. Do you want to share?
Yeah, it was just we started doing outreach into the bars in Thailand, and I was just kind of, it was just a new world of opening to me. And then I think what really got me was actually seeing like an older gentleman with a wedding ring on, with a young Thai girl, not even probably of age, on his lap. And just, I think the brokenness that must have led him to that point was an issue, right? And I was just really, really struck with, we have to do something about this. We've got to reach these men, get rid of the demand, and we won't need a supply, that kind of thing. That's what got me into it.
And at that point, we told God we would go anywhere and do anything to combat this issue, but that we knew that this is what we were supposed to do with our lives. He called us to the crazy city of Los Angeles, and we've been there for the past 12 years. There is where we really started to build Justice 180. We were also working with YWAM Los Angeles, and kind of built Justice 180 on the side of that. We led YWAM LA for the past 6 years. And in about 2019, that's when we actually launched our coffee company. Robert's been roasting coffee since 2015.
Okay.
And he kind of just started it as a hobby and something that he was like, yeah, this is something that's really cool. Kind of converted from the mainstream coffee to the third wave coffee, and realizing, wow, you can have really great coffee. And along that time, he realized that he was really good at roasting coffee. And kind of parallel to that, I was going out on the streets of LA and doing outreach to girls that were being sold on the street. And I was also going into strip clubs, and the conversations that I was having over and over would be, with these young girls, and they would say that they'd done programs, they'd gone through safe homes, but they were up against the fact that the average age of entry is anywhere from 11 to 14 years old. So with that, they have little to no education, little to no work experience, and before they're even adults, they have criminal records. And so with that, they'd go through these programs, and then there was the big question of what now? And kind of ending up dependent on either a program or just going right back to their traffickers. And that was something that was really hard to see, especially when we knew somebody had left the streets, and then within just a matter of time, they were back out there again. So around that time we were actually here on a trip to Reading, and started just dreaming about what would it look like to really connect these two worlds, and to bring a solution to that issue that we were seeing. So that is why we started TK Coffee. We started TK Coffee for the purpose of providing a safe work experience, a safe place to learn, job opportunities, life skill training, all of that kind of stuff, as a bridge of hope for the next step, and to go from that spot of going through a safe home, going through a program, and then answering the question of what next. And so our goal is not that they will stay working with TK forever, but that they'll have that real launching pad to go and fill out an application to school, to get another job, and really have some compelling resume skills.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that? Like what you guys were experiencing, or maybe that's currently, maybe that's also in the past, with girls that have intent to, reintegrate and kind of be on their own 2 feet, but the process of getting employment. So you just mentioned briefly, it wasn't working out. Can you talk into maybe some details of the sort of experiences people you were working with were having? Like, was it because of a criminal background? Was it because of an inability to interview well? Like maybe share some details there.
Yeah, it started from a story on an outreach in LA in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
There was a girl on the street, and that was the question. She was like, I've been through program after program after program, and then there's nothing for me on the back end. And as a missionary who's like giving your life to see these people rescued, that's like devastating. And it's just not a really good testimony either. It's like we're working really hard to get them out, and then they just go back because there's nothing for them. And I don't know, I'm a problem solver. So and I have a big heart for people. So it's like, okay, we have to do something about this. What can we do? What skills do we have? We've been in missions our whole life. I don't have like a ton of technical training anywhere. And then it was like, coffee. And that was the beginning of the dream, really. And I think with coffee's a unique thing. Like we can reach people for Jesus from farm to cup all along the supply chain.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're setting out to do.
And the thing that we're specifically seeing was just this, when you're working with survivors, there's so many dynamics. You have the aspect of trauma. The trauma that survivors of trafficking experience is similar to that of people who have been in hand-to-hand combat. So we're seeing huge post-traumatic stress. We're seeing just a lot of mental illness, and drug addiction, and all of these things that have been just parts of their story. And so when you are working with a survivor of trafficking, there has to be an awareness of that. As you're helping bridge that gap, you have to have trauma awareness. You have to realize that there's a whole different lifestyle that they're coming from, and so we have girls that we've worked with in the past, and they'd have a conflict with somebody, and the way that they're going to throw down with that issue is not a way that works well in the workforce. And so there's even basic things like customer service and problem solving, and what to wear when you show up to a job interview. We've seen some really interesting things, and you have to understand that the world that they're coming from is so different. And so when I say that we want to provide a safe place for them to work, it's not just the actual physical safety of the situation. It's also knowing like, hey, this is how you present yourself when you show up to a job interview. When a customer gives you attitude, this is how you respond, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what we're really looking at. And also for us, we don't, we don't believe that survivors of trafficking are damaged goods. I think a lot of times you see people with this approach of like when somebody's experienced trauma, that they're almost like damaged goods, you know, like they will have to now compensate for all of the trauma that they've been through in their life, but they'll never be fully restored. And we don't actually believe that. I mean, on the scientific level, there's amazing studies happening about how much of your brain can be regenerated, but then also on the spiritual level, you know. So that's we're going after a holistic approach.
That's great. Yeah. And so talk about what you've seen up to this point. So again, the company is TK Coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where would people find that if they wanted to look online or find, I don't know if you guys are selling online or is it just a storefront?
Yeah, so we started with our coffee shop in LA, and we opened that in the middle of COVID in Los Angeles, which was like a crazy journey. That shop is in Pacoima. We opened it in one of the rougher neighborhoods in LA because we wanted to bring something beautiful and bring something hopeful in the midst of a dark and kind of overlooked area. So people can go to that. That's you can look it up as tkcoffeeco.com. And then we do wholesale and we do subscription based coffee roasting. So people can go to our website, which is tkcoffee.com, and they can subscribe to get monthly or bi-monthly, and we can also do wholesale contracts. But everything that we do is, again, to provide those jobs and to have an impact.
Yeah, talk about what you're seeing as you're providing jobs for survivors.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the journey. And this is not a brand new journey. Like this has been going on for several years, sounds like.
Yeah. So we started back in 2019 is when we really started going after it.
Yeah.
And then we just actually hired our first survivor here in Redding a few months ago. And with that, we were realizing like, there's so many components that we need to build our program for. I didn't want to call it a program because again, I don't want to create something that they're dependent on, and it is that bridge, you know, offering hope. And so with that, we started realizing that there were a lot of things that we needed to prepare for, as far as even simple things of like most survivors actually have no legal documents because their trafficker, their pimp has taken possession of those. And so a lot of what we started out with doing was basic, like, okay, let's work on getting a birth certificate. Let's work on getting identification and going after that stuff. But we also realized that it's, you know, as we sit down and we're hearing in these interviews and we're like, what do you want to see in this journey? You know, what is some of the fruit at the end of this time that you want to have? And the things were so simple, you know, like I want to have a job and keep a job, but it was also things like I'd love to learn how to make dinner. I want to learn how to be a good mom, and these kind of things. And so it's exciting because you're not just, you know, providing a workspace, but you're also going after those personal level things. And you realize that there is a generational impact that you have here, because when you see transformation in one person's life, that is going to affect the generations that come after them.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, that feels a little bit more than employer. That feels like you're like trying to create culture and really walk with people. And I mean, maybe mentor, right? You're like actually walking alongside of folks.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. There's so much hope there. And I feel like in the midst of we have so much brokenness amongst family dynamics. Yeah. People are finding family in so many different places, maybe at their workplace, maybe in their church community, maybe amongst like civic groups they're connected to. So in your case, you guys are like creating family at the work. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any experience or stories when you talk about women that were just unable to find work coming out of programs? Like, I don't know if you've had any stories or input on what was limiting survivors from finding work. Was it a lack of mentoring? Was it, you know, maybe their background or their marred record. Maybe it's just the trauma that you were speaking to earlier, that they don't see the world through the same kind of lens. I don't know, anything you could speak to there?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about people, like she said, with tons of trauma. These are
Yeah,
people can be pretty hardened. Just have some ways of communicating and interacting with people that we're not used to in the
Sure.
workplace.
Sure.
And so that's very limiting. But I mean, the criminal record is a huge one, and not graduating high school, having like a 6th grade reading level,
Yeah,
I mean, just the odds are stacked so far against these people, just the
Yeah.
addiction, and just all of it. It's like a big package of, if a normal employer would be, yeah, no thanks, I'm not giving you your first shot,
yeah,
that's why we're like, if we can give them their first shot and
Yeah.
prove that, hey, they can do this and be successful, and build a program that encourages success and incentivizes success, so they can actually move up in the company and get promoted and get raises and stay with us for a year or two. And we can launch them into, like, our goal is to build a network of businesses who like kind of join our cause, who say, hey, we could be a part of this too. We could hire a survivor a year. And we'll hire them from TK because they've done the groundwork for us, that kind of thing.
That's great. I love to hear that.
That was the big thing, for us. A lot of times you see issues happening, and you see things that are alarming or concerning, and then kind of wonder who's going to do something about that. And for us, we're just, I guess, too stubborn for that. We're like, we're going to do something about it. And I think that's what it takes. I think it takes everybody kind of looking at what they have and what they can offer, and then asking themselves, what can I do? We have so many people who have joined our journey along the way. We have the sweetest grandmas that write little notes for our gift bags that we hand out on the streets. And we have, survivors who have knitted scarves for us in the past to put into those gift bags, and mamas who sell like makeup and things like that, making donations. And it's really just become like this network of people asking what they can bring to the table and then showing up. And so, like he said, we want to create a network because other employers can do this as well. I think that there's a lot of needs that we're meeting with the first step about getting them job ready. But then after that, like we just need people who are willing to say, I'll give you a shot.
I love it. Can you talk to that network widening, back to what you were saying, Robert, just about other businesses coming into that mindset of like, yeah, we can provide employment. Like, what would you say to a business owner whose interest is piqued from that statement? Like, talk to me about how they might be involved, like the price that it costs them. Like, maybe it's no price whatsoever. Maybe it's just, hey, all we got to do is like widen our employee search.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about necessarily the price that it costs. It's going to cost you something. These are people that need a little extra care. But for me, business, it's not just about making money or being successful. Like, I want to leave the world a better place when I'm done, right? I want to do business on purpose, and so that's my challenge, is what are you doing it for? Like, are you selling couches just to sell couches, or could you get, these women, some of these women are the best salespeople you'll ever meet. Like, they really are. You just got to teach them how to communicate, how to show up to work on time. But these people, these are business people.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my challenge, is like, is there maybe there's more purpose for you in your business, and a way you can bring, some life to your company. I think that a lot of times people run businesses for a long time, and like you said, they kind of peak like, and they're just kind of like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And I think you can do a lot with business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a really inspiring thought, like a network of businesses that are specifically targeting, like, we want to employ survivors, and we want to give them access to the natural process of kind of going up, right? And starting to thrive in life. And yeah, making money is a big piece of that.
Right.
And if your value and your worth and the way you're making money is centered on like sex for sale, that's just not going to really work too well for you in terms of value and
Right.
how you feel about yourself. And even those that are quote unquote choosing the life, because I know, you're pulled in between 11, 14, and then maybe you're much older and you're still there. And it's like, well, are there other options for me? Right. How inspiring. Like we had like just loads of businesses that were doing what you're doing and making space. I love it. That's an amazing picture.
And realizing that, it's not just survivors of trafficking, right? There are so many different demographics of people who need
It's good.
to give them a job. There's foster youth that are aging out, and I can't tell you how many victims of trafficking that we've met on the street who have been in the foster care system.
Yeah.
It's like most of them, like
They
80 to 90%.
they age out, and then there's nothing next, or homeless people. Even here, the unhoused people here in Reading, like I've met so many of them who have been aged out of the foster care system, and then what's next. And so I think, if there's something that's stirring on people's heart, it's they're burdened for a cause. You can partner your business with so many different things.
I love it. That's awesome. Just maybe lastly here, that big idea of adding value, like every one of us are on a journey. We're all growing into something or moving closer to what we feel like is our destiny. And that's a journey of growth, of learning, things being added to us that we didn't have before. Like, what would you say to people that are in a position to add that value to individuals, whether they're running a business, maybe they're coaching, soccer or youth sports, or they're a teacher? Like, talk to us about that value and just the opportunity, like it really is an open door. Like I can actually add value to others. What have you guys seen in that process? What's inspiring to you about that?
I think first of all, just being willing to show up, being willing to be the change that you want to see in the world, right? And knowing that the world just needs people to show up. The world needs somebody to say, yeah, I'm going to do something about this. As far as how to go about it, I think you also need to realize that, you're not a lone hero. We are not where we're at because we win at things alone. Like, find other people that are passionate for an issue, and if there's nobody around, then get them passionate about the issue. Talk about it. We've been talking about trafficking long before it was a hot topic, and so, rally the troops, get people excited about doing something, and find out who's doing something and how you can partner with them. Find out what needs aren't being met. And really, I think when we all work together, we can make such a greater impact. I think, like Robert was saying, a lot of times we go at our work, we go at the tasks of the day, and we build things, but sometimes there's a lack of purpose in that. And so if everything we do in life, everywhere we put our money, every business we start, has intentionality behind it and purpose behind it, then life becomes a lot more meaningful. There's a lot of coffee companies that people can buy from, and so with us, we're like, you're not just getting really great coffee, but you're also doing something incredible by buying coffee, which is so simple. Everybody does it, right? It's more consumed than water. You're also making an impact. And when we're drinking coffee, you can be like, this is such a simple thing, but I'm making a difference. When you go and buy your clothes, where are you buying your clothes and who made those clothes? And just everything you're doing, do it with intentionality and do it on purpose.
It's great. Yeah. And I mean, adding value to others, not just consuming and getting ahead or making money or becoming financially prosperous, but like really thinking about the things that I'm pouring myself into, that it would add strength, life, value to others. Then all of a sudden we're like actually acting like a village and a community. And there's
Yeah.
this reciprocation going, like your life is getting on me, my life is getting on you. We're strengthening one another.
Some of the greatest lessons that I've learned too have been from people that I'm working with. You know, they'll have a revelation or they'll learn something that's so simple, and it just like you find yourself in just like a puddle. You're like, oh my gosh, you just had that breakthrough, and I did too. You know, because I think sometimes we go at it as like, oh, I'm going to save somebody, I'm going to make a difference. But what they have to offer as well, there's such
Oh, yeah.
incredible things, and
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had incredible moments of, you know, survive, like victims of trafficking being out on the street and bringing me gifts for my kids, you know, or wondering when my baby's going to be born and things like that. So there's so much there as well.
Well, and I mean, back to your story, Robert, in Thailand, that gentleman, you know, with the wedding ring, much older, sitting with probably somebody who wasn't even of age. Like that's a clear demonstration of a lack of interconnectedness, like that what we do affects each other, and making decisions in a vacuum versus making decisions of like, I'm gonna be a part of a collective something, collective community, you know, and like we're actually together in the living of life. I think like we just got back from a short-term missions trek, and it was interesting to see like the Americanisms that fall off of us when we're in mission. Like when you live missionally, all of a sudden you're very interconnected and you're thinking about others. You're not just thinking about yourself. And I mean, how much more if our business endeavors included that, our career choices included that? Yeah, that's inspiring. Well, yeah, really good to talk with you guys. How would people follow you, find you, get more connected to what you're up to? You already mentioned tkcoffee.com.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, we're getting ready right now. We're working on building our social media, building our website. So the best way is to actually to go on the website, and as we continue to build, we'll start making those announcements there.
That's great. Perfect. And you guys have something going on. I don't know if that's a closed moment or something that's an open moment you wanted to share here next week. You could say, no, it's not an open gig.
Yeah, we're just trying to gather people in the Reading area who are really interested in making a difference with the issue of trafficking. And so if somebody is interested in attending that event, it's our very first, it's like our launch and fundraiser and all of that. So if somebody is interested in knowing more, they can email info@justice180.org.
Perfect. Great. Well, yeah, Jenny, Robert, good to connect.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you guys for what you're doing. Excited to be connecting more here in our hometown, and love what you guys are doing. Thanks for spending time with us.
Of course.
you.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.